Arvind Kejriwal has opened yet another front in his anti-corruption drive. And this time his sights are on Reliance Industries and a bunch of union ministers. Kejriwal minced no words, accusing some union ministers of being in collusion with the Mukesh Ambani-owned Reliance Industries to defraud the public exchequer of nearly 54,000 crore rupees a year. What's more, Delhi police has been asked to register FIRs against ministers and Mukesh Ambani in this case. Politicians as well as analysts are quick to play down the Delhi Chief Minister's grave allegations against Reliance Industries and Congress ministers. Reactions from all political parties have been swift. The Congress was quick in its defense of the petroleum minister, going on the offensive. The BJP, who has been accused of helping Reliance along with the Congress, blamed the UPA government of inaction. But the markets gave a thumbs down to Reliance, with the stock slipping nearly 2%. While the probe is unlikely to give its findings before general elections, what Kejriwal has done is set a cat among the pigeons. He's ensured that the issue is kept alive in the run-up to the polls. Is it about that? Are these just allegations made without facts in elections? Arvind Kejriwal, by making these statements, trying to go on to the national arena by talking about national issues, because clearly, even as the Supreme Court says, the Delhi Chief Minister does not, I beg your pardon, have the jurisdiction to talk about gas pricing. Joining me on this debate tonight, we have Narendra Taneja, expert on oil and gas sector. We have Rajiv Kumar, Senior Fellow, Center for Policy Research. We also have Sanjay Jha from the Congress Party, and Preeti Menon Sharma will be joining us from the Aam Aadmi Party. Let me start with you, Mr. Narendra Taneja. We need an expert opinion first for our viewers to at least understand what is being said. Arvind Kejriwal is saying that the gas pricing policy of the UPA government is flawed. Now, politics apart, yes or no, in your assessment, is he correct in saying that the gas pricing policy is flawed?
Well, I mean, there's questions. I mean, question mark. I mean, to say outright the gas pricing policy flawed would not be the correct statement. But yes, there are some questions, and I think the way gas pricing policy has been handled, I mean, it could have been handled in a slightly better way. But having said that, I think number of allegations when you look at it is, for instance, that they are exporting gas to Bangladesh. I think it's not true. No Indian company can export gas to Bangladesh. There is no infrastructure available for exporting gas to Bangladesh. And as far as the hoarding allegations are concerned, I think that's being investigated. Only an expert, most likely we'll have to get an expert from overseas, because we don't have experts available within the country to really investigate such charges. So they have to find out. Thirdly, in terms of losses, I mean, I don't understand where are the losses, because the gas is still there. And the gas can be produced anytime if they have technology and if they've got the infrastructure and market, of course, available. So I personally feel that, you know, this is just to create a kind of kind of psychological warfare with some electoral gains in mind. I think it has more to do with politics and the coming Lok Sabha elections than the gas issues. But my only worry is, if you create this kind of environment in the country, the result would be the domestic investors would stop investing in oil and gas sector, particularly exploration production. Foreign investors that we need, because most of our oil assets are in deep water and we don't have technology available in India. We need foreign investors to come with technology, capital and expertise to explore and produce gas in the country. They will shy away, they will not come. So the result will be, it will all lead to economic anarchy in the country. The question is, do we want to generate economic anarchy just for some political gains? That's, I think, the million-dollar question that should be addressed.
These concerns about the gas pricing policy have been raised beforehand also. And I want to bring in Mr. Kumar here. Rajiv Kumar, I want to ask you that Kejriwal alleges that Reliance was colluding with ministers to raise gas prices to $8 through dubious means. The word being used is dubious means. He further said that RIL's rates for gas price is not based on cost of production, and that the company has created an artificial shortage of fuel in the country. How much substance is there in this charge?
Well, I don't think even Mr. Kejriwal knows how much substance is there in that charge. And this is actually most unfortunate, because yes, if there is a problem with gas pricing and with gas exploration and production, I suppose it would have been much better for Mr. Kejriwal to have first got his facts right, put them in the public domain, and then gone on and done an FIR or whatever else he wanted to do. You see, it is so easy to make these charges. but it is so difficult to reverse them and to reverse the impact that they would have on the investment environment in the country. This, in my view, Maruf, is really populism of a reverse kind. This is like a reverse populism. You know, one sort of populism is when you hold out all the lollipops and the freebies to the electorate. The other one is to paint your private investors black to show that, you know, we are the ones who are acting in the national interest and the private investor is not doing so. And his particular demand of handing all these blocks back to the public sector company ONGC on the belief that they will do a much better job is, I think, just full of, is just full of very grave dangers for the economy and for the country.
But tell me something.
I am not sure at all.
Yes. Go ahead, Mr. Kumar.
Yeah. So, no, I'm not sure at all whether he can prove at this point of time, or anybody can, whether RIL has been acting in cohorts with the ministers, whether they've been hoarding the gas. Yes, there is a Rangarajan committee report. They should go by that. He is an expert who was appointed by the government. But before you make such charges which have such grave implications for the investment climate in the country and for the private sector in this country, politicians in our country must be much more circumspect than what Mr. Arvind Kejriwal is proving to be.
No, but I'm saying when Arvind Kejriwal spoke, he very clearly said that this was on the fact that he has referred to the anti-corruption branch. He said that this was based on a complaint filed by former Cabinet Secretary TSR Subramaniam, Admiral Tehliani, former Navy Chief, and eminent lawyer Kamini Jaiswal, besides a former Expenditure Secretary. He said based on the complaint that was filed by these 4 people, he has asked the Anti-Corruption Bureau to probe the matter. Do you want to say that all of them also don't know about gas pricing?
There is also an organization called the Bureau of Serious Economic Frauds. That could have been the right place, the forum, the right organization to go to. They should first establish this case rather than hand it over to the police department. I mean, this is like saying that we don't know whether somebody has committed a theft in your house, but we will ask an organization to come and probe whether there was a theft in the house or not. Now, all the 4 people you've mentioned are very eminent people.
Yes.
I suppose they have grounds, substantive grounds to make the charges that they have, but they all know how the government works. So it might have been better for them themselves to make these, to put these complaints and to put the case before the Serious Economic Offence Bureau or or perhaps the Petroleum Ministry or the CBI, rather than give it to the Delhi police. For it to be now become responsible for a matter of national importance, just because the complainants are residents of Delhi.
We're still hoping for Preeti Menon from the Aam Aadmi Party to join us. Apparently, there's a huge traffic problem in Mumbai. But I want to come back to you, Mr. Taneja. Kejriwal says that Reliance had initially agreed to supply gas to NTPC at about $2.3 for about 17 years. But price of gas from the D6 block of the KG Basin was fixed at $4.2 when Murli Deora was oil minister. Last year, after Virappa Moily took over as oil minister, the central government agreed to link prices with global indices, which could double the local gas prices from April 1st this year. Does this sound as real reform as far as the government is concerned when they spoke of policy, Mr. Taneja? Explain to me and to the viewers, doesn't this seem a little fishy as Arvind Kejriwal is suggesting?
Well, it's very easy to find out. You just Google search. I mean, this matter was in the press, in the public domain for several months, and then it went to High Court in Bombay. And after that, it came to Delhi. The matter was thoroughly probed. And it was only after that the government of India and the cabinet took the decision to increase the price. And it was taken to, about $4.20 per unit. So I think this is an old story. This has been debated. There have been allegations.
No, but my question is very specific. Mr. Taneja, my question is specific. When last year this gas pricing policy was released by the government, there were questions raised as to how this particular policy is not about real reform. It does not depend on market considerations. It's depending on global prices. Tomorrow, if global prices crash, our entire policy is going to be questioned, and it's a very tenuous policy to give to the new government also, which perhaps the UPA realized, but at that time it seemed to make sense to them. Now, whether it was collusion, as Arvind Kejriwal is suggesting, remains to be explained. But there are questions being raised about this gas pricing policy, Mr. Taneja.
Yeah, you see, when they double the price, which will come into effect from the 1st of April this year, I mean, based on a certain formula, which was, given by Rangarajan committee after, according to them, quote unquote, very serious consideration. So there have been different opinions. There are people in the industry who say that the formula proposed for calculating the gas price is not really dynamic enough, which means that the prices go through, let's say, big changes in the western part of the world, it might have negative impact on the Indian market. Yes, this is an open question, and there are lots of people within the industry who disagree with it as far as the formula is concerned, and that's why people are saying, why did they agree to increase the price, double the price? They should have probably gone for 30% increase and 30% and then maybe 30%, or they should have been more dynamic formula. But this is, if the debate is about that, then I think it's very understandable. But throwing allegation, that's a completely different thing.